No.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending upon when you're looking at this. First, some credentials and a disclaimer. My name is Eugene Ellis. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing law for 40 years. I've been I've done over 200 trials. Don't have the exact count, but over 200 trials. And I'm going to talk for a few minutes about the so-called pundits, Megyn Kelly, and Anderson Cooper, and some of these characters that are talking about Donald Trump. The other day they had on a series of these people talking about whether Donald Trump lied when he said he had vetted, when the advertising said he had vetted the instructors. Now, let me give a disclaimer first. I can tell you that everything I tell you is my personal opinion unless specifically stated as fact. That's number one. Number two, I do not know Donald Trump or any of his family. However, my wife and I did go to a Donald Trump school many years ago, real estate school, and I don't remember if he showed up, but I do remember his instructors, and I did have a very positive feeling when I left. That's my disclaimer. Otherwise, I don't know the man, I don't know his family, and I know about as much about him as you do, or as any of the others do. The other day, Anderson Cooper was on, and he was yelling. They had their normal 6 people against Trump and 1 person who was standing up for Trump. And they were yelling at him in a very loud voice, saying he lied, he lied, he lied, when his advertising said he vetted the instructors, and then in a deposition apparently he didn't remember doing that or talking to them. First of all, I'd like you to understand that the difference between a lie and puffing in advertising. The gentleman that they were yelling at didn't seem to understand that. He did say in defense of Trump that it is, after all, advertising. And the point I want to make is that in the law there's something called puffing. And puffing is exaggerations made in order to sell a product. And puffing is not a lie. Puffing is not actionable, and you cannot sue on puffing. And so, number 2, when did you ever hear about General Motors, General Electric, or IBM, the top executive busy doing things, that sat down and designed his own advertising? All of the top people, including a billionaire, multi-billionaire like Donald Trump, have advertising agencies that do this. And although the agency isn't allowed to misrepresent, certainly the top of the organization doesn't sit down and read all the copy and approve it themselves. And so I think that that's important. Is there a profession that deals with determining whether people lie? And of course there is, and it's called the law, and it's called jury trials and trials. And when you are in a trial situation, you are in a situation where you're dealing with 2 people and they're saying the opposite, and somebody obviously is not telling the truth. And there are tools and there are laws that help to govern, and you don't just accuse another person of lying. If a lie is defined as the intentional statement of a person who intends to deceive you and says something which is false. Now, you need to break it up into the various components. The intent in the head of the person when they're telling you the misinformation. Did Donald Trump intend to vet these people, and in the workaday building the Trump Towers and golf courses and things like that, never got around to it? Or did he intend to deliberately lie to people to get them to go to his school. And there is nobody, Anderson Cooper, strange fellow if I may say, and or Megyn Kelly or any of those people cannot get in the head of another person and say that they intended to lie, and it's highly unlikely that he would. I'm sure that this was a very small venture compared to his normal ventures of billion-dollar buildings and things like that. And so I think that it was totally out of place for them to be screaming and yelling and saying on television and acting very unprofessional and saying that the man lied when obviously they have no idea and they can't prove it one way or the other. Puffing is allowed, lying is not. So anyway, let me go on and talk about 2 seconds, please. Okay. Megyn Kelly put on 2 talking heads the other day, and they were talking about whether the $5.6 million that Donald Trump raised for the veterans, that was improper for him to tell anybody about it. He should have done it quietly, and that was wrong. One of the people was a veteran and the head of one of the veterans organizations, and the other was some Trump hater. And the typical thing that was so disconcerting was when Megyn Kelly was talking over the Trump, the veteran that talked for Trump, talking over him in a very loud voice so it was impossible to really hear what he was saying, then turned to the other talking head, the Trump hater, and said, and stopped the veteran from talking and said, hold it, and then she let the other man talk in total silence, and then nodded her head in a really ridiculous little nod, meaning, see, I got you this time, or brown-nosing her boss, that you see I did what you told me, I really tried to make him look bad for you. I think that this is obvious. Conduct is more important even than words. And when you see people doing things like this and deliberately preventing one person from talking and allowing the other person with a negative view to talk, then you understand that these people, Anderson Cooper, Kelly, and the similar ones in MSNBC, are disinformation agents. And I have a feeling that they'd fit very well in Goebbels and Hermann Goering and Goebbels and that group that worked for Hitler, because that's what they also did when they didn't like somebody. Let's talk about the judge, the federal judge, and the case that's coming up. And we want to find out, in your opinion, because this rule that I'm going to tell you about is made for you, for the average individual, and it governs how judges should behave. It says that a judge should not engage in any conduct that is political. It says that a judge should not engage in any conduct that would cause people, the average person, to feel that there was something improper going on. It does not say the judge should not do anything improper. That's obvious. It goes a step further. It says no judge should engage in conduct which leaves the impression in the average person, that's you folks watching this, that there is something illegal or crooked or otherwise unsavory going on in the judicial system. Now, why is that? In other countries, judges are regularly assassinated in South America and places like that. And so we build up in America a feeling of trust in the judges, that even if they make a hard decision, even if they send a loved one to prison for 10 or 20 years, that it's not personal. If that feeling on the part of the public, you folks, is in any way watered down or made worse, or you no longer have that feeling about the judges, then we've lost a great thing. And as an attorney of 40 years, I'm telling you that it's not my decision as an attorney, it's not even the judge's decision, it's what you people think. And if you think that the judge is acting in a way that is suspicious, then it's your job to contact the judiciary, contact the judges, contact the presiding judges and so forth, and let them know that you think that it is suspicious, the conduct on the part of the judge, and that it would be better if he recused himself. What does recuse mean? It means he lets another judge take over the case just to avoid. What about the releasing of all these documents that have been sealed right after Donald Trump made that statement at the San Diego Trump meeting? Made the statement in the conference hall about the judge, and then right after that he released all these documents. Is that timing coincidental? If you think it's not, if you think that this is a case of a judge which is engaging in suspicious conduct, that it could be the basis or caused by the fact that the judge is now getting involved in a very personal way and is not acting professionally, then it is your job to contact the judicial system, the presiding judges and so forth, and tell them that's your opinion. You don't have to be a lawyer, you just say, that just looks funny to me, and I think it would be professional and better to do otherwise, and to maybe have another judge finish the case. It's no harm, but it goes a long way, particularly when the person they're talking about is probably going to be the next president of the United States. Let's talk about O'Reilly and Megyn Kelly and so forth. The pundits and they say, but he's not Mexican, because Donald Trump referred to him as Mexican. Mexican is not your nationality. Mexican can be a nationality, but Mexican is a race. A nationality is American. If, for example, with a Mexican name, and it's more appropriate if you're going to mention something like that, to talk about being a Hispanic name, you don't know, you have no idea if the person is Hispanic, or is he Spanish, or is he South American or Cuban, or what? You don't have any idea. You just have a name that sounds Hispanic, that's all. But you've got to understand that people on a day-to-day basis, if the judge were, just as an example, stopped by a police officer and arrested for some DUI or something like that, if that was the case, and it isn't, but if it was, he would probably, with that name, write down on the police report, Hispanic. Now, he wouldn't write down American, he would write down Hispanic. In other words, the question is the race of the individual, and that's what Mr. Trump was referring to, because where he is proposing things that many people, many Hispanic people are upset with. And of course, it's not fair to have emotions injected into a judicial proceeding. And so, yes, he is American, of course he's American, but if they're referring to someone's race for a specific reason, because there's a big conflict going on in the country now, then I don't feel that it was maliciously made. And in fact, Mr. Trump said that, and at the conference I was at with my wife in San Diego, that they had a large group of Hispanic people there, Hispanics for Trump. So it's not a Hispanic thing. And in most of his hotels and everything, he employs thousands and thousands of Hispanic people and treats them all very, very well. There are no complaints in that regard. Let me also say that the media is a disgrace. The media is a disgrace. It is a disgrace because I watched, my wife and I, the way the media built it up, I thought maybe I should wear a bulletproof vest or something, but we went anyway to the San Diego conference. If you understand that the conference center there's no back way in, and it's got actually almost like a freeway separating the conference center and where we went into the building. The San Diego police were so professional. They stood there and we had no protesters in any way even remotely near us. We went by, we showed the ticket, we went in, there were two hecklers, they were removed very quickly. There was no indication of any problems at all. Now my wife and I were the last people to leave. The whole place was emptied out when we finally left. And we left, and again, you couldn't even hear, there were protesters across the highway, but you couldn't hear them. They were too far away. I could see them in a distance, but they were too far away, and they weren't yelling and screaming or anything when I looked at them. The San Diego Police Department let everybody know there was zero tolerance. They weren't carrying those long sticks that they used to push the crowds back. They had the batons they used to bang you on the kneecaps with if you get too out of control, and they were there in strength. And I personally thank them because my wife and I felt very safe, not threatened ever in any way whatsoever by the protesters. And I have to say that I'm very proud of the mayor of San Diego, and I'm very proud of the chief of police for protecting people's rights to talk. That's all. You don't have to agree, just to talk. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just food for thought. I don't think it's fair to railroad people. When I was a kid, we called them bushwhackers, the Anderson Coopers and the Megyn Kellys and the people like this. It's a disgrace and it's disgusting. And I hope certainly that when Trump becomes president, that he looks at the FCC and looks at the bandwidth and looks at the rules and regulations that these people are governed by, and maybe prosecutes CNN and MSNBC and some of these outfits for being so totally unprofessional. Thank you very much. Have a nice day, a nice evening, and God bless you. I would like to share something with you, however, so if you don't mind an extra minute or two, let's do this.
Finalist and cast member of Glee. Her father is an Iraq War veteran and her grandfather is a Navy veteran. To honor America, Jessica Sanchez.
Stand beside her and guide her.
Don't be afraid, folks, to salute your country anymore. Stand up for it and defend it. Thank you. Goodbye.